Hey guys, this is Alex from the Torch Snuffers podcast. If you went to our website at torchsnuffers.wordpress.com last season, you would have seen my blog 71 Hours, in which I go over secret scenes and exit interviews, and I go into all the details that you glean from that you wouldn't get from watching the show. Now, this season, I'm going to be trying to do that, but a little differently, so I'm just going to be vlogging about it, and you can watch it right here. So, if you're not aware, the Survivor on CBS YouTube account posts a lot of content after the episode ends every week. There's videos of Tribal Council and challenges, and there's Secret Scene, which is a scene that was cut from the final edit of the episode that made it to air, and there's about 20 or so confessionals that are internet exclusives as well. And of course there's also exit interviews to go into. So without further ado, I'm going to start the ones that we saw from this week. So let's start with the Gen X tribe, because not as much happened over there. There were just a few interesting tidbits from that. There's, Jessica says nobody's really complaining or fighting yet, which, it's good for tribe morale. Chris, the ginger guy, says that he is totally aware that Paul is kind of obnoxious and always in control, because he micromanages camp life to the extent of telling people, chop that coconut, or pick up that rock. So he's aware that Paul is obnoxious, and he's actively using that as a shield. And it seems to be working because, as we saw in the episode, Paul was the target of the Minority Alliance. And Cece confirms that the Minority Alliance consists of herself, Ken, whom the millennials have amusingly taken to calling Ken Doll, or Barbie Ken, David, the neurotic TV writer, and Lucy, who is our purplest person so far. I don't think I've seen her on the air show just yet. And so they don't have a fifth yet. They only have the four of them, and so they're still kind of in trouble. Now, as far as the Millennials tribe, there's a lot to get to, especially in regards to the showmance within the Triforce. So, first of all, Zeke has a really good crack about how Figgy was trying to get in the showmance with both Taylor and Jay and see who would bite first. And Jay, since he lives in Florida, everybody there is already beautiful, so he's not as tempted as Taylor from Spokane. So that's how that worked out. Now, as far as Taylor's perspective on said showmance, he views it as a calculated risk. He says that he knows that the showmance is going to be a target, but he doesn't really expect people to come after them for, like, the next 4 tribals. And I'd say that, if that's true, that's still going to be a major target on your back 4 tribals from now. So I'm not sure how smart that is, but he was correct that nobody came after him this time. So another thing that Taylor might not be taking into consideration is just how much of a target that both members of the pair are individually, and not just because they're obviously voting with each other. Because Taylor, according to Zeke, is also bossing everyone around, and Figgy, according to several people, is in everyone's ear. We heard on the show that Michaela says that, she's trying to work her magic out in the open, but apparently that kind of magic involves getting in everybody's ear and telling them to vote against everybody else. So she's tried to make way too many deals right off the bat, being very aggressive, and that's not really going to work in the long term. So why did Figgy not go home in that instance? Well, Will has an excellent scene, which is about the meatiest scene I've ever seen that didn't make the air show. And the reason it didn't is because obviously they had to keep the boot a surprise, which, I would have appreciated a little more information on that, because it was more of a WTF surprise on the show rather than a oh man kind of surprise. So the way that he categorized it is that Figgy is a short-term decision, getting rid of somebody who's an obvious target now, whereas Mari is going to be a long-term gamer. And in particular, the way he categorized it was that Mari wasn't trying to strategize with anyone, and she was playing very low-key and just trying to get by on likability, which she has in spades. And that's really interesting because Mari guesses in an exit interview that she came too hot out of the gate, and I would argue that that actually both of those are true. That she came out of the gate hot with regards to having a very outgoing personality that is easily identifiable as intelligent and threatening from a game perspective, but at the same time not really trying to do much in strategy and not trying to act as threatening as she came off. And so I'm pretty sure that kind of mismatch just gives people weird vibes. Other things from the episode are that Jay credited himself with stoking the fight between Michaela and Figgy just a little bit by making a comment about the machete and where it was pointed. Not sure how well that worked in his favor, especially since Mari says that the target was on Jay for a little bit. Because apparently Figgy got paranoid that, that their Triforce Alliance was being targeted, and so she tried to throw Jay under the bus, and it got back to Jay. And that's one of those things that I can totally believe happened because, having played in an org, which is an online reality game, essentially Survivor but played on chat rooms, which is how this podcast got its start, I can tell you that pretty much everybody comes up as a target during every round at some point. It's just a matter of how serious they are about it. In addition, something that I wasn't able to cover last week because all the secret scenes were just, extended cast interviews, essentially. Rachel said that where they went during the cyclone was basically in a concrete room with no food, no bedding, and being watched by the producers so they couldn't talk. And she honestly wondered, is the cyclone better than this? So, yeah. So now we know what happened because it was on the episode. It was just sort of cutting from getting off the island and then getting back on the island because they don't want to show behind the scenes stuff and break the illusion. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm looking at my notes right now. One other thing to mention is that the episode preview, which is just the 30-second commercial that they've been airing on CBS, if you take a look at the challenge footage, there's no tribe swap that I can tell. And I don't think that challenge is going to be a reward challenge because it would be very odd for there to be enough time for both a swap and a reward challenge in a single episode. So, when they hold out their palms and reveal their rocks, I don't know what those rocks mean. And that makes this not just the first, but the second twist of the season that Probst didn't spoil in the run-up to the season. And I'm very happy about that. Just, making it low-key. And so I'm excited to see what that twist is going to be. This has been my vlog. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.